All right, well,
Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Ozaukee, Washington County's forum for the candidates running for Ozaukee County Supervisor, District Number 17. District 17 is one of two seats that represents the city of Cedarburg on the county board. This forum is being recorded on Zoom on Monday, March 18th at 7 p.m. The recording will not be edited and will be posted after the forum in its entirety on the League of Women Voters of Ozaukee and Washington County's website and Facebook pages. The video link will be available to the candidates to post as well. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Ozaukee and Washington Counties. My name is Christy Schwann, and I'm the president of the League. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization and therefore does not endorse or oppose any candidates or political parties. We have two candidates participating in tonight's forum, Jack Arnett and Peter Eisenhauer. There is one seat to be filled in this election, and the names of both of these candidates will appear on the ballot on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, for voters in District Number 17. Please become informed about your entire ballot and vote in this upcoming election. One way you can find helpful information about your elections is at vote411.org. Questions for tonight's forum were solicited ahead of time from the public through a survey distributed to the public through newspaper announcements, the League's website, and by email. I would now like to introduce the participants of this evening's forum, Jack Arnett and Peter Eisenhauer. This is the format we will use for tonight's forum. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement. They will make their opening statements in the order determined ahead of the forum. Peter will begin. The person that begins with the opening statement will then be second to answer the next question, and we will alternate in this order in the manner for subsequent questions throughout the forum. Another League member, Amy Otis Wilborn, is going to be our timekeeper. The opening statements will be followed by responses to questions submitted by the public. We'll continue with questions for no longer than an hour. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to questions, and all candidates will respond to the same questions. After the question period, candidates will have 2 minutes to summarize their positions on issues in a closing statement. I will ask that candidates mute themselves when not speaking, and then remember to unmute when it's their turn. The opinions expressed by the candidates are their own and are not sponsored or endorsed by the League of Women Voters. All of these candidates have chosen to make the effort to run for elected office. As a consequence, they are subjecting themselves to the scrutiny of the voters. Whatever you may think of each candidate's position on issues, they deserve our respect and appreciation for their willingness to serve in public office. We will now begin with the introductory remarks. And Peter, you will begin.
all right, thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you, Christy. Thank the League for hosting this. I really appreciate this opportunity to discuss issues of concern and why I believe voters in District 17 should select me to represent them as their county supervisor. Jack's campaign yard signs highlight the motto that experience counts. I totally agree. Jack is not the incumbent and has never served on the county board. Neither have I. In my case, I have a variety of professional experience that I believe give me the skills and outlook necessary to be a successful county supervisor. My priorities on the board will be to promote responsiveness and transparency. There are failings there at the most basic level. The county website is outdated, the notification system doesn't work, and there is no system for tracking inquiries. These things the county board had in their strategic plan, and they've failed to implement them. I believe in forward thinking. The county, as mentioned, has a plan and is due to update it this year. That needs a lot of attention. I also believe in wise investments in our county resources, like the community-based residential facility at Lasada, our county-owned senior living facility. We need to maintain and improve on what we have. Thank you.
Jack.
Okay, thank you. No, I would also like to thank the League and Mr. Eisenhauer for the opportunity to participate in this event. I did read Mr. Eisenhower's resume, and I see that he's a federally trained diplomat. So I just hope he takes it easy on me tonight. I've lived in Cedarburg for 22 years and have 4 teenage daughters. I'm self-employed. My pitch to the voters is pretty simple, that I am an experienced candidate, and I acknowledge Peter's point that I've never served on the county board. However, I have served as alderman representing half of this district for 8 years, and I never missed a council meeting. And that's somewhere around 180, 190 meetings. I feel that the city and the county have not communicated very well in the past, and I'm proposing regular meetings between city and county officials, just so we can all get on the same page. For example, recently the county was handing out the federal American Rescue Plan funds, and it started out that Cedarburg was going to get somewhere around 600,000, and they ended up with somewhere around 400,000. And I just think it's important that that someone who has some connections within City Hall and the county be in there to get things done. I'm sure it'll come up later. I support the expansion and the protection of LaSada, improved mental health services, and I have a lot of ideas on how to improve our parks and natural resources. And I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. So to begin with our questions, again, that come from the community members, and Jack, we'll start with you. What unique experience or knowledge do you have that you would bring to the position of Ozaukee County Supervisor? Give examples of how you've worked with individuals with different backgrounds than your own.
Local government is unique. The budget process is nothing like the private sector with levy limits. I'm the chairman of the finance committee for the city of Cedarburg, so I understand that budgetary process very well. And boy, working with, when you're an alderman, you get to work with everybody with various points of view. And I would like to say that I always listen to everybody. Obviously, whenever you have a vote, you don't always agree with everybody, and they don't always agree with you. But I think it's important to let everyone have a voice and at least be heard. And if you disagree, at least understand why you're making the decision that you're making. So, I guess the unique experience is just 8 years in local government, and I've been very committed to doing that. I walk around City Hall still. I walk around City Hall once a week just to see what everyone is up to and learn the issues, and I'll do the same at the county level. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And Peter, the question was, what unique experience, expertise, or knowledge do you have that you would bring to the position of Ozaukee County Supervisor? And please give examples of how you've worked with individuals with different backgrounds than your own.
Right. First of all, I'd like to thank Jack for his service on the council. I appreciate what he did, and I'll just mention that we had a primary. I didn't know I was running against Jack. Not that I want people to vote for him, but and when I inquired about him, one of the things I did hear from people who support me anyway, but said, Jack will listen to you. So I think that is a point in his favor. My own experience working with people of different backgrounds does tie into my experience as a U.S. diplomat. That's people don't always know about the Foreign Service. That's a highly competitive appointment. It's a presidential commission, and you serve our nation overseas and deal with foreign governments, foreign publics. In my case, I was a public information officer, a public affairs officer. So I was doing a lot of media relations. I was doing a lot of exchange programs, dealing with people of different nationalities, speaking different languages, different ethnic backgrounds, and so forth. In the United States, all my life, I've always been interested in having a diversity of people around me, inputs, ideas, and I just think that's just so very important. I'll put in a little bit of poetry. The poet Rumi has a version of the story about the elephant. I think everyone's heard this, where people go into a room in the dark and everybody finds a different part of the elephant. So someone says, it's a pillar. Someone says, it's a saddle. Someone says, it's a waving, they see the ear. Stop. Oh no, I can't tell you the end. Sorry.
Give us the punchline at the end. Thanks, Peter. Our second question, Peter, you'll begin. What is your understanding of the time commitment and responsibilities of this position and how you will meet those requirements?
Okay, the county board supervisor, it's a part-time position. There are 2 full board meetings a month, the morning meetings at 9 o'clock at this point. They're scheduled in Port Washington, and there are committees that each supervisor is in at least one committee, and they have a number of meetings a month. I am basically retired. I have some professional activity, but I have an open schedule, so it's quite easy for me to be at the morning and most evening meetings. Again,
Okay, thank you. And Jack, same question. Or did you have something more, Peter?
no, thank you.
Jack, same question. What's your understanding of the time commitment and responsibilities of this position, and how will you meet those requirements?
Yeah, I obviously I don't need to repeat what Mr. Eisenhauer said with respect to when the meetings are held. I'm self-employed, and I think the fact that I was a council member for 8 years and never having missed a meeting shows that I'm pretty committed to this. I have the time available. In fact, I've been attending board meetings for some time now, just to get a feel. I always felt, when I was on the council, I always felt like people are running and they don't even come to the meeting right before they're going to take office. So how do they know what's going on? So I've been attending the meetings, and that's not going to be an issue for me, as demonstrated by my record. Thank you.
Okay. And third question, and again, Jack, we'll start with you. What do you see as the 3 most pressing problems for the county?
Sorry, I'm unmuting there. Well, I think the mental health issue has been and continues to be, in my opinion, the #1 pressing issue for the county. The calls for service are up, and I don't have the number in front of me, but I attended the last board meeting where there was a presentation. It seems to me it was about 57%, just going from memory. The county is implementing an operational team that will go send ununiformed people in unmarked cars out there to help lower the volume on the call. Okay, well, maybe we'll get to the answers later on how to fix that. But you asked about the 3 most pressing. So 1 is mental health. 2 is the continued expansion of LASADA to provide that CBRF chunk that is missing right now at LASADA. And then #3, I think there's some unique opportunities with the parks. And I think I'm uniquely positioned, knowing what's going on within the city, to help with maybe some more regional type of attractions for the parks. So mental health, LASADA, parks.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Same question for you, Peter. What do you see as the 3 most pressing problems for the county?
I see one problem is the balancing for the county, the pressures of development, opportunities for development, and the need and desire to maintain open spaces and parklands, nature preserves. Another thing is at this moment, that during this year, to responsibly spend some funds that the county has available through the American Rescue Plan. That's what's available for the LASADA CBRF, and that's why I'd highlighted that issue early in the campaign, that it's just unacceptable not to get that project done. Thirdly, I would say it is very important from my point of view that the county government be more open and responsive to citizen concerns. There's just, I think there's goodwill, but there are no systems in place for engaging citizens, informing citizens that there should be. And that's in contrast to, I think, the municipalities do a better job of that than the county does at this point.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And question #4, Peter, we'll begin with you. How would you balance the needs and interests of District 17 with the needs and interests of the entire county?
That is an excellent question. I think in a lot of cases, the interests should align and should be the same. I mean, I think everyone in District 17 wants county services to be strong, to, for the sheriff's department to have what they need for money to be spent responsibly, investments to be made effectively. And the Lasada, for example, the CBR, well, that is in the district, so that those perfectly align there. Otherwise, I would certainly always advocate for fairness in terms of cost sharing. That's more on the level of the municipality, though, in terms of city of Cedarburg versus the county. I mean, I do take seriously that I'll be representing part of Cedarburg. But I think what is good for the people of the district, what's good for the county is probably good for the people of the district. I don't see many conflicts.
Thanks, Peter. And Jack, same question. How would you balance the needs and interests of District 17 with the needs and interests of the entire county?
Yeah, I hear what Peter's saying. That I don't disagree with that. It's pretty uncommon for those interests to be unaligned. However, let me give you an example where it could happen. We are both for the Lasada expansion, but those 24 extra rooms are going to place a burden on our EMS people. So, but the EMS people are paid only by the citizens of the city of Cedarburg, not the greater county. So, that is something that, and I've already mentioned it to the county administrator, where, hey, is there a possibility of a payment in lieu of taxes to help our Cedarburg residents cover the added expense that you, the county, is putting on our residents? So I'll be honest with you, it's probably a long shot, but that's the perfect example where the needs may not be aligned. However, I think there are some ways to approach that to make both sides happy.
Okay, thank you. And then Jack, question 5. What decisions made in the last 5 years by the Ozaukee County Board have been the most successful for Ozaukee County?
I think the county has generally, in the city, local government is typically pretty responsive to its local residents. I just think of the controversial items that have come up at the county level over the last several years. I think one of them is the preservation of the clay bluffs. There was funding, and then there wasn't, and then there was funding, and it ended up being preserved. And I just think there's very few opportunities to preserve 2,000 feet of lakefront frontage. And I'm glad that they did it, because it's just something that you can never get back. I was talking with the county administrator today about getting public access to the clay bluffs. So, trying to explore some ideas how we can get the public down there. So I do think that was one of the most successful decisions that the county has made in the past 5 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And same for you then, Peter. What decisions made in the last 5 years by Ozaukee County Board have been the most successful for Ozaukee County?
That's a wonderful question. I'm going to just respond a little bit to what Jack has just put forward, because I'm a little bit baffled about the clay bluffs issue, because in fact the county did not support the acquisition of the clay bluffs as a nature reserve. They voted down, or in effect a minority voted down county funding for it. It was only preserved because of the action of the governor in allocating some funds that didn't need to be approved by the Joint Finance Committee of the legislature. So I'm glad it's happened. The county is moving forward and making access available and supporting the park, but that wasn't a success of the county government, I'm afraid. The other point I also respond to, let's see if this fits in here, but the burden sharing on Lasada, I've discussed that also with the county administrator. I know part of this process this year of finalizing the project is setting a level of impact payments, what they call impact payments, for those EMS services. I've also spoken with people in the fire department who say, look, there's 24 beds. It's not going to be a huge burden. Some of this is covered by Medicaid and other insurance providers when there are calls. But I mean, I agree it's an issue that needs, but I think it will be addressed.
Thank you. Question number 6, then again, Peter. Pick one of the decisions you just mentioned and elaborate on why you see it as a success and how it positively impacts district number 17.
Well, let's see. So I think I went off track there. I didn't list successes so much, but well, I'll if I could reference something else, and I think this was mentioned before. So the county has recently instituted a program, an initiative of the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Human Services to have co-responders, which will be a mental health professional responding to a crisis situation along with a sheriff's deputy, which can be very helpful in de-escalating situations. They're very helpful in avoiding some problems that could happen if it was just law enforcement responding to that kind of thing. So that effort is important, and I support that. So.
Okay. And then Jack, same question. Pick one of the decisions you just mentioned and elaborate on why you see it as a success and how it positively impacts district number 17.
Well, yeah, I mentioned the clay buffs, and Peter is correct. And as to the funding, I was referring more to the access to the parcel. And since I only mentioned that one, I guess I have to elaborate on that. I think there was a poll. Again, I'm going from memory, but it's somewhere around 75 to 80% of the respondents of the poll spoke positively about maintaining open space. And such a unique parcel being waterfront, I think, is makes it different than perhaps just farmland or something like that. It was just it could be. I mean, that area could be the equivalent of our Central Park for Ozaukee County, and I think that benefits every citizen, including the 17th district.
Okay, thank you. And Jack, question 7. There were several questions submitted with concerns about high-density housing development in Ozaukee County and specifically in district number 17. For example, the development on Western Road. In your role of supervisor, how will you influence the kind of development and the pace at which development is happening?
Well, cities determine their own zoning and their own land use. So the county really doesn't have any jurisdiction within the city of Cedarburg. So I'm not sure how to address that. I don't know what the county can do as far as addressing specific land use within the city. So I guess I don't have much of a position on specific land use where the county has no control over the use of that land. Now, where the county does have control, I think there's certainly some issues about open space. I mean, we have various different communities from fairly dense sections of, say, Cedarburg and Mequon and Grafton to very remote places in the northern part of the county, each of which I think needs a different approach.
Okay, same question, Peter. There were several questions submitted with concerns about high density housing development in Ozaukee County and in District 17 specifically. For example, the development on Western Road. In your role of supervisor, how will you influence the kind of development and the pace at which development is happening?
Mm-hmm. Well, Jack is correct in that cities set their own zoning, and this decision to allow that scale of development on Western Road and to approve the tax incremental financing was certainly a city decision. I wouldn't, as a county supervisor, have any input on that. I think the county has a role though. I was just at the Joint Plan Commission and the City Council meeting where they're discussing, again, two very large residential projects at the north end of Cedarburg. And there are overlapping jurisdictions. We're talking about the city of Cedarburg and the town of Cedarburg. And it needs to be looked at, I think, more comprehensively. The county has reinstituted or reconstituted a comprehensive planning board. I would hope they would have some kind of at least advisory position to talk with the various municipalities about how it should all look. I mean, Highway 60, that corridor, you have the town of Cedarburg, you have city of Cedarburg, you have Grafton just beyond Coit Road. Planning authorities should be able to work together to highlight plans and ideas for the public to comment upon.
Okay, thank you. And Peter, also related to development now and in the future, what influence can the Board of Supervisors and you as a supervisor representing District 17 have on plans to manage traffic and pedestrian crosswalks?
That's a great question. I've heard that directly from some residents on Lincoln Boulevard and on Western. I live close to Western. I hear so much from neighbors that we're concerned about when that all comes on board. Where are all those cars going to go, or what will the traffic be like? Again, that's not directly. Unfortunately, that's not directly a county issue. So I'm not sure what I could do as a supervisor about it. And, you know, the county is responsible for their roads, but it's the saddest thing I've heard in talking to people is how do these things happen without us knowing about it? And so that's why I emphasize so much the idea that all levels of government, municipal, county, should be doing a better job of engaging citizens in these questions. I mean, that Joint Plan Commission Council meeting was actually excellent in terms of the number of people that showed up, the variety of viewpoints that were expressed. And I will go back now to my elephant story, just because that struck me so much. So the idea is we're all reaching the dark. We find a different piece of the puzzle. Okay. The ending that I never heard to this story before was, but if we all light a candle and we walk in together, we'll see what it is. And I just think that's what the democratic process should be, where we do share ideas. And at that meeting, it was great to see some people start with one idea and change a little bit and hear what other people said. I mean, Jack had some input there talking about looking at this more globally. And
okay, thank you. Jack, same question. Also related to development now and in the future, what influence can the Board of Supervisors and you as a supervisor representing District 17 have on plans to manage traffic and pedestrian crosswalks?
Well, yeah, I'll echo what I said. The city has complete control over the crosswalks and signals within the city limits. But a good example of what influence a county board supervisor can have is on the north side of Cedarburg on Highway I. As you come into Cedarburg, residents up there have been asking to lower that speed limit. In fact, when I was on the council in 2018, we actually we sent a resolution to the county to change it from 55 miles an hour to 45, and the county followed through and did that. So now that a little more has developed, and if more does get developed up there, I would advocate that the county lower it to 35 miles an hour per the residents' request. Now, they do these traffic studies and say sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. And my opinion is if the local residents want it 35, let's make it 35.
Okay, thank you. And Jack, question 9. What are specific ways that you think the county can better assist residents with mental health concerns?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've met with the chief of police and the sheriff on this, and they both have the same concerns. They're not getting quite the response that they want out of the county with respect to mental health services. And what it's doing is it's causing officers to have to sit in an emergency room with the patient for hours on end. The average mental health call for the sheriff is 13 hours of time. One call, 13 hours. Much of that is overtime. And I assume the city is probably about the same. So this is just something that other counties are doing better than us. And the co-responder task force is just, I think, a terrific idea to help. But that's more proactive. We need, when the police are there, we need better response out of the county, and it's better for the patient, it's better for the taxpayer, it's better for everybody, and it's just it seems to me this is something that other counties are doing, and let's just copy what their what the neighboring counties are doing.
Okay, and Peter, same question. What are ways that you think the county can better assist residents with mental health concerns?
Yes, I think it might be an issue of staffing. They might need more staff available. I know they have a request in the current budget for additional adult protective services position. I think that's an excellent move. The calls, the crisis call, intervention calls have definitely spiked in the last few years. I mean, the numbers are, I won't go into all of them, but they're up quite a bit. They were from 20 to 21, as you can imagine. I think we all believe the pandemic was an extremely stressful time for a lot of people and led to a big increase in those kinds of calls. I don't know if it's abated. The numbers show it abated a little bit in 22, but still, obviously, there's a lot of need, and there are these issues with police being tied up with that. I was at the emergency room with a neighbor the other day, and there were deputies there waiting, and there was a person in distress that they were taking care of. So it's a real issue. But other than more staffing for the DHS, I don't know specifically what the county can do, but certainly we should pay attention to it.
Okay, thank you. And then again, Peter, what responsibility does the county have in addressing the opioid epidemic?
Well, it's two things. Part of the public safety responsibility, law enforcement responsibility, the sheriff's office, and as part of the public health and human services responsibility of the county. So they need to use all tools available to address the crisis. This co-responder unit that's actually funded with money from the opioid settlement, the large settlement against our pharmaceutical companies that were held responsible for creating the demand for opioids and with to bring this epidemic. So the county has responsibility in a number of fronts, and I think it's doing its best to address it. So we're starting to address it. Other things that can be done. They have a grant for what's called a Narcan vending machine. This is the life-saving medication that can prevent an overdose from being fatal for a person. That is, we have one under a grant for Ozaukee County that they haven't found the best place for yet. I know Washington County has 3 of those. If that works, they should do more of that. It's just a situation where we need to do more of everything that works.
Thank you. And Jack, same question. What responsibility does the county have in addressing the opioid epidemic?
I think the county has a big responsibility in that, the counties are oftentimes just a big funnel for federal and state money. So it's sort of everyone gets to do it their way, I guess. And I don't specifically know if the county's doing great at this or bad at this. I do know that the fentanyl epidemic is a national epidemic. I would guess the calls in Ozaukee County have doubled in the last couple of years, just anecdotally. I think you've got an issue of where you've got to handle, maybe the carrot and stick. You've got to do prevention and do everything you can to stop this before it becomes an issue. And then if there's dealers or people around here that are pushing this stuff into the community, they need to be punished. So I do think the county has a role to play in the opioid epidemic, and that's not my area of expertise, law enforcement, but I would rely on the sheriff and the experts that know what they're talking about.
Okay. And our final question from the community. Jack, finally, what role will you have as a supervisor to support development that includes green space and environmentally conscious building, such as implementing geothermal and solar energy?
Well, I think you can encourage the private. I actually built a little solar panel when I was like 10 years old. I've always been sort of fascinated with solar. Just hot water though, not electric. And I think government can provide some incentives with respect to alternate energy. And the first part of your question was about open space. The city of Cedarburg owns 116 acres on Pioneer Road at the confluence of the Milwaukee River and Cedar Creek. And it's been slated for a portion of that to be used as a water treatment facility in the future, perhaps, but they don't need 116 acres over there. So I think there's a lot of potential. I mean, that's got to be almost sacred ground where Indians must have gathered I've walked it. I've been down in there. It's just unbelievable. You wouldn't even believe you're in Ozaukee County. We have a landfill up by Five Corners. The solution to that, I've been in meetings for this for 8 years. The solution is a cap. Now, what's better than a large parking lot is a cap over all of this pollution, keep it from seeping into the groundwater, and maybe a big indoor sports facility could go over there, a community-wide amenity. There's just plenty of. I think the other one would be the interurban trail. And Peter mentioned the development along Highway 60. How about expanding the interurban trail along Highway 60? Perfect.
Thank you, Jack. And Peter, same question. Finally, what role will you have as a supervisor to support development that includes green space and environmentally conscious building, such as implementing geothermal and solar energy?
Well, I believe that should be part of the work of the county in terms of the open space we acquire and use, and the parks. Parks could be great demonstration spaces for sustainable technologies, renewable energy, I would encourage all those kinds of experiments and efforts in the county for the parks and leisure groups. One thing the county is doing now, I don't have the details on that in terms of wetlands. They're currently acquiring an area in Saukville that will, maintain the runoff and help in that way. So the county has environmental responsibilities. There are some initiatives, and I definitely encourage all of that work to improve that.
Okay. Well, we've come to the point in the forum where each candidate will have 2 minutes to summarize their position. The closing statements will begin with Peter, who would have gone first had there been another question. Peter.
Okay. Well, I have noted that today, March 18th, we're recording this, is the anniversary of the founding of the League of Women Voters of Ozaukee County in 1957. So I'm going to say happy birthday to the League. Thank you for hosting this event and for all the work that you do in voter education, promoting, protecting our democracy. I also understand the news graphic is covering this event, so I want to thank them for the service they provide in informing voters. I want to thank Jack Arnett for being willing and able to participate in this. I'll mention one of my first assignments as a diplomat was in Eastern Europe just after the collapse of communism. And at that time, we were providing a lot of training and support to stabilize those countries, to bring them along. I worked with journalists, with NGOs, with both Republican and Democratic parties overseas, outreach programs, and it really brought home to me that it takes a lot more than just having elections to make a country a democracy. We need a free press, we need engaged citizens, we need NGOs, we need politicians who respect democratic norms. We still need all of that here in the United States. And most importantly, we need engaged and informed citizens to go out and vote. So I'm thanking everyone who's taking the time to watch this, and I thank you. I'll be having at least one open house meeting in the coming weeks. I'll be at the Cedarburg Library Community Room from 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday, March 25th. I invite anyone to come along to that. Stay interested, stay engaged, go to meetings. Thank you.
And Jack, your final comments.
Yes, I would also like to thank the League for sponsoring this event. I think local politics needs more open forum type events like this where the public can meet their candidates, and well, maybe we should do it in person next time, but actually meet them. You know, some of you may know Dick Diefenbach in Cedarburg. He served on the county board in the very seat that we're both seeking. And I sat next to him on the city council for 2 years, and Mr. Diefenbach always advocated for contested elections, and he felt that the community was better off with them. So I'd like to thank Peter for agreeing to run and for agreeing to attend this event. And you know, I feel like maybe he took it a little easy on me. Maybe he gave me some diplomatic immunity. But I'd like to summarize by saying I've represented half the 17th district for 8 years on the Common Council, and I'm an experienced candidate. I continue to serve the city on the Plan Commission and as the chairman of the Finance Committee. I have a record of keeping partisanship out of local politics, and I believe that our constituents they're just sick and tired of the bickering, and they don't want that divisiveness at the local government level. And I'd like to congratulate Peter for seemingly doing that as well. If you want new ideas about parks and county natural resources, I'm your candidate. If you want someone who will fight for improved mental health services and reduced police overtime, then I'm your candidate. And if you want to see LaSada expanded and protected while lowering the burden on the taxpayer, I'm your candidate. And I'll make this pledge, Peter, should I lose on April 2nd, you'll have my full cooperation and access to all of my files, and I will look forward to working with you together as we seek to improve Cedarburg and Ozaukee County. Thank you.
Well, thank both of you. This concludes our forum. We hope that this forum has given you, the voters, the information that will help you cast an informed vote on April 2nd for Ozaukee County Supervisor, District Number 17. We want to thank both the candidates for giving us their time and their thoughts this evening.